Following a year of intense competition, the 2010 KCB Kenya National Rally Championship came to a close with the final rally of the season. It was anticipated to be a thrilling climax to the year, adding to what had already been a year of hard motoring, testing the crews to the limit. The series returned to Nairobi for the KCB Guru Nanak Rally, the traditional season closer. Although the stages were 100 kilometers to the south of the capital on roads that had not been visited in 4 years.
Do you think it's going to be competitive amongst the top guys?
Absolutely, very competitive, very competitive, because the stages are long, so there are very few drivers who can keep the pace up all the time. With a 47 kilometer and a 41 kilometer stage, they'll have to work hard.
With the championship title already claimed by Alistair Kavanagh, focus was on who would take second and third places between Ian Duncan and Balder Chaga. But with most having nothing to lose, it was a chance for others to make their mark, including Peter Horsey, who was anxious for a win, Lee Rose, who was competing in his last event in Kenya, and Carl Tundo, the defending winner of the event. The KCB Guru Nanak Rally is recognized as being the most prestigious event of the year, and an unprecedented 63 cars passed through scrutineering, lining up side by side, ready to face the challenge. Following the pre-event check, the cars headed to Kajiado, 85 kilometers to the south of Nairobi, on the corridor route to Tanzania.
A warning to all drivers that at the end of stage 2 and stage 5,
after a final briefing given by the clerk of the course, the crews were warmly welcomed to the area by the local district commissioner.
Indeed, this is a great opportunity for us, the people of Kajiado, for us to expectate, also to learn and to interact with people from other areas. So we really say thank you for us being your choice.
Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup had been drawn to run first on the road, intent on taking full advantage to end the year on a high after a disappointing season.
3, 2, 1, and of course car number 5 in first position of Carl Tundo and Tim
The rally comprised of 5 stages amounting to 192 kilometers of competitive motoring. Stages 1 and 2 were repeated, separated by stage 3, run close to the Tanzanian border. The service park at Kajiado was only visited once, with refueling zones located at the end of each stage. The route was more technical than open, making it a test of skill, and gaining an advantage would be down to those willing to drive on the limit, having full confidence in their notes. Peter Horsey and Despage Morris left nothing to chance and attacked right from the start, setting the benchmark and opened up an 8-second lead. Ian Duncan and Amo Slat were the only ones to stay in touch with Horsey, pushing the National Oil pickup hard. The terrain was awkward, but they hoped that by gaining time early on, it would be easier to defend later. Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup had not had time to double-check their notes and settle for a pace that was comfortable rather than take risks.
100, long, easy.
They found it difficult to settle into a rhythm, and after 2 offs were surprised to be in third. In between rallies, Balder Chaga and Raju Semi had sold their N12 and had replaced it with an older, well-used Impreza. This rally was all about testing the car and settling in. But in whatever they drive, they are always quick, and only dropped 35 seconds to the leaders to claim fourth. Alistair Kavanagh and Gavin Lawrence had already won the 2010 championship and were hoping to end the season with another win. They were another not to have double-checked their notes and understandably started cautiously, and for now we're in 5th. Having failed to finish the 2 previous events, Lee Rose and Piers Dakin were anxious to get to the end of this one, especially as it was their last rally in Kenya before immigrating to South Africa. They were unusually off the early pace, giving away nearly a minute, but there were still plenty of stage miles left for them to improve on 6th. In 7th were Azar Anwar and Julius Gige in their Evo 8. The car had proved to be a handful all season, but having ironed out all the problems, it was at last on good form. They were just over a minute behind the leaders and were pleased that they were being so competitive. The rally had attracted 5 crews from Uganda led by Jas Mangat and Gihan De Silva. They have recently become regulars on the Kenya circuit and are always amongst the front runners, yet to make their mark. They were in 8th but had lost a chunk of time after missing 2 junctions. Alex Horsey and Frank Guitar were driving just to put the stage miles behind them and get to the finish. Alex was not feeling well, and this reflected in their times. They were 80 seconds off the front end pace, which was enough to put them in 9th. The top 10 was separated by just over 1.5 minutes, with Hardik Resi and Ravi Soni more than happy to be in 10th. Following their return to rally earlier in the year, they have settled back in, showing that they have huge potential with a turn of speed that they are forced to harness in favor of conserving the car. The leaderboard was beginning to take shape, although positions this early on were far from being settled. Peter Horsey held the slim lead of 8 seconds over Ian Duncan, with the top 6 separated by less than a minute. With such a huge entry, cars were still leaving the start back in Kajiado, whilst the frontrunners were nearing the end of the first loop of the stages. Peter Horsey and Despage Morris continued to set the pace of the rally, extending their lead by another 7 seconds. But the relentless concentration of balancing speed against risk eventually cracked, and they went off, breaking a steering arm, which put them out of the running. The demands of the route began to take its toll, and by the end of stage 3, 15 cars were forced to succumb, including Ian Duncan and Amo Slatch. The rear drive shaft on the National Oil pickup cried enough, and all they could do was limp back to service. This was their last rally in the pickup and will be competing in an Evo 9 next year.
This car's never, while it's working really good, it's never been that competitive anyway. So let's move up a peg and see what happens. So it's a bit sad for the spectators, but